Welcome to Chapter 2, CSS Inline Styling, Part 3. Chapter 2, Essential Outcomes. Students communicate, collaborate, create, and apply critical thinking skills through project-based learning by A. Constructing, computing, and designing basic web pages. B. Empowering and challenging each other to create unique designs. C. Demonstrating knowledgeable web page structure. D. Being responsible web designers and digital citizens. E. Sharing the innovative designs via global networking. F. Linking keywords to project application. Your website final project. As you recall, you will be working on your final project throughout the semester. So at this point in time, you are going to stop this video after you complete the slide and work on your final project. First, you are to stop the video at this point. Based on Part 1 and Part 2 of Chapter 2, you are going to now open up your final project in Notepad++. You are not allowed to have any other web page open as you do and complete your project. You may review videos, but not any completed page. You may also use your HTML code worksheets. When you finish, please return to this PowerPoint so we can continue with Part 3. Now, what do you need to add to your project? First of all, be creative. I don't want to see cloned websites. In other words, all of your websites should look a little bit different. I'm giving you the minimum. If you want full points, you have to get creative and go beyond the requirements. That will require you to be creative. Number 1, you need your 3 metadata tags. 2, you need to add an icon on the browser tab. 3, add 2 paragraphs of lip sum text. 4, add an H1 tag with the name of the site with color. 5, 2 sets of Google fonts, one for the body font and one for the H1 tag. 6, text color, background color, font family, and font size. You may keep this page open, but you are to stop the video now and work on your final project. This should not take you that long. If you are starting at the beginning of class, you should be able to finish your final project today in class. Welcome back to this PowerPoint. We're going to now look at how do we structure a web page. In this chapter, we are going to find there are 4 basic sections to a web page. You have the header, which will include our masthead. This houses the name of your website. You have the nav bar, which is your link, which houses the relative links for your website. Section. This houses all of the various content sections on a website. Article is a subsection. Aside is a subsection. And then we have our footer, which houses the footer information such as copyright, author, etc., etc. This time we're going to talk about the header section. First, be careful about getting the header section confused with the head tag. The head tag is part of the HTML shell. The header is a section that goes between the opening and closing body tags. They're not the same. The header houses the masthead. That would be the name of your website, a logo if you want to add a logo on there. Usually your name of your website would be put in an H1 tag, or it would be designed as an image. Again, you can add your business logo in there as well. If you look at the example, Line 27 has the opening header section. Notice it follows the body tag. On line 29, we indented the H1 tag and put in Hello World. That will be our heading. And then we closed on line 31 the header tag. So that is one section. The next section we look at is the nav bar. The nav bar will follow the header. It houses the relative links for your website. If you remember our Google Sites, if you look at the image on the bottom right, on Google Sites we had a home page, web design page, a chapter 1 page, chapter 2. These are all relative links because they move you around your website. They link you from one page to another. When we set up the relative links, we use the unordered list container paired tag with the LI line item tag. Again, relative links are pages inside your website and they all relate to your home page. Where do you put these? Your nav bar should be put either above or below the header or on the left hand side of the page. Since we read left to right, our natural instinct is to look on the left side for a nav bar, not the right. So let's look how we set up our nav bar. If you look on line 33 of the example in the top right corner, you're going to see the opening nav, and on line 42, you're going to see the closing nav. In between the opening and closing nav, we have our unordered list container tag, the UL, and then we have the LI line tag, which sets up each of the items in our list or indexes them. So in this case, we have 4 line items. Looking at the navbar section, if you're able to tell me where the mistake is in the navbar section, you earn a bonus. You need to be the first one to tell me. The section tag. The section tag is used often to set up the body of the web page between the closing nav bar and the opening footer. The tags that you will use to set up your section is an opening section and a closing section tag. Inside those section tags, you can include an article and a side or images. The last section is our footer. The footer opening footer tag follows the closing section tag. It is at the bottom of the web page, and in the footer you should include the copyright date, who designed the website, the last time it was updated, all rights reserved, contact information, and any other thing that you would like to put in, such an address, phone number. Those are all optional. Now that we've looked at our sections, let's talk about block elements versus inline elements. Block elements. Block elements create a block around the text in the form of a rectangle. Block elements take up the full width available from left margin to right margin, and then it adds one blank space after the element. In the example given below the image, you're going to see that a paragraph tag is a block element. It runs from the left margin all the way across to the right margin. The ordered and unordered list is also an example of a block element. Paragraphs we know we use to set up individual paragraphs, and the section tag is also considered a block element. If you look at the examples, the image examples, the unordered list, which has the home, page 2, page 3, page 4, is set up, but notice that if you look at the border runs from left margin to right margin. So if you notice, it can be kind of deceiving because you might be able to think that you can get an image on the right side, but you can't because the unordered list takes up that entire space, even though the text does not. If you want to see the full extent of an element, place a border around the element. It will then show you the width of that element. The gray border below shows that the paragraph tag takes up the entire web page running from left margin to right margin. If we compare the paragraph tag with the unordered list tag, you're going to see that these both are really block elements. The paragraph tags has text running from the left margin to the right in the margin. However, the unordered list does not. It only has so much text. But just because the text doesn't extend across the page does not mean it's not a block element. Block elements can be deceiving in this regard. So again, if you're not sure, make sure you put a border around to see if it is a block element or an inline. So you might be able to look at that and say, hey, I can put an image to the right of that indexed or that unordered list, but in reality you can't because the ordered list is a block element. Inline elements only take up as much width as necessary. One of the primary inline elements is the image tag. The image tag only takes up the space it needs. If you look at the image there, you notice there's a black border around the image. This border shows you that the image only takes up so much space. It does not extend from left margin to right margin. So how do we move inline elements so that they can be inside block elements? We really have to kind of trick it. It's not like Microsoft Word where you can just click on something and drag an image to its location. Can't do that here. We're in programming. So you have to code it or tell it to move. You kind of have to trick the block element so that it actually will allow the image to float either on the right or the left side of the text. Because as it stands, a paragraph tag, as in the example, takes up the entire margin. So we have to kind of trick it so that it understands that it only can take up so much space and that we can actually align that image to the right or to the left. So in summary, identifying block versus inline. This is extremely important to understand. Block elements run from left to right margin, and it does not matter if the empty space has text or not. Inline elements take up only the amount of space that it needs, such as an image tag. If you're unsure whether a tag is a block or an inline, add a border. The border will show the element's true size. Now we're going to look at some new HTML codes. Our new codes are as follows. We're going to use the unordered list. This is a container tag used to set up a list of items when the order of the list is not important. The tag that you will be using is the UL tag for unordered list. Ordered list is a container tag that is used to set up a list of items when the order is important, and that tag is OL. The line tag indexes items in the unordered and ordered list. Both the unordered and ordered list use the line tag LI. The mark tag. This is an element that sets up highlighting on a word, phrase, or paragraph. Use the mark HTML tag. The default color is yellow. Bold. Bold darkens a word or phrase so that it stands out on the page, and you will use B as your HTML code. Italic. Adds a right slant to a word or a phrase to make the text stand out. This you will use an I. Vertical break tag. This is a single tag. It's BR space / right angle. It adds vertical line spacing that's up and down on a page. So if you want to add more than one space between sections, you can do that by using the break tag. New CSS properties and values. Margin Auto sets the margin of any block element so it fits the screen, top, left, bottom, and right. Width, you're going to use the EM. It sets the width of a block element. Padding adds white space around the outside of block and inline elements. Border adds a line around block and inline elements. If you look at the border, it's border : 3px is the size or the width of your border. Solid means it's a solid border, and then you follow it by a color. And you have the non-character code for copyright. So when you go to put in your copyright in the footer, you would use the amber sign or the and sign, which is on the 7 key. Type in the word copy, semicolon, and then the year, 2018. Chapter 2, Part 3 Quiz. At this time, please stop the video and take time to review your keywords presented. Make sure you review so you can do well on your quiz. Once you have your reviewed, you may take your quiz on Google Forms. Remember, no one on your right or left should be reviewing or taking the quiz while you are doing so. Once you have finished your quiz, please return to this video. Welcome back to this PowerPoint. You are now going to do your Chapter 2, Part 3 class activity. Please go to Google Classroom and find your video. Make sure you have your HTML codes for Chapter 1 and 2 with you. It will be helpful.